No, see, something happened to me. Just hearing you talk about it tonight, it's important to me that I'm not bananas. I mean, I'm fairly straight down the line person. Working, I had a good job at DCU. I'd gone back to work after having my daughter Neve. My husband teaches engineering at DCU. We had Neve in 1988, and I went back to work when she was 5, when she started school. And we'd leave her with Daniel's parents, my husband's parents. His mother always picked her up from school, and I'd collect her after work, and last year she was dying to learn how to swim. And the school had a thing that they'd take the class down to the CRC in Clontarf on Wednesdays. She was learning very well, no problem, loved the water. She couldn't wait for Wednesdays and swimming. Daniel used to take her to the pool on Saturdays and everything. But for such a bright, outgoing, happy girl, she was a big, she had a problem sleeping at night. She was afraid of the dark. She never wanted to leave the room. One of us would have to lie there with her until she went off, and even when she did, she'd often have to come in and sleep with us. And I'd say to her, "What's wrong? Why don't you go to bed?" But in the daytime, she wouldn't care. Nighttime was a million times away, and she wouldn't think about it. But at night, there were people at the window, there were people in the attic, there was someone coming up the stairs. There were children knocking on the wall, and there was always a man standing across the road who she'd see. Like there was loads of things. The poor dear, I wanted to bring her to the doctor, but Daniel said she'd grow out of it, and we should be careful. Just about the boots we got her and what she saw on the telly and all that. But I mean, she used to even be scared that when she got up in the morning that Mammy and Daddy would have gone away and she'd be in the house on her own. That was one thing she told Daniel's mother. And all the furniture and carpets and everything would be gone. I mean, so I told her after that, we'd never, it was ridiculous. And that if she was worried at all during the day to ring me, and I'd come and get her, and there was nothing to worry about. And she knew her number. She was very good at learning numbers off and everything. She knew ours and her nana's and mine at work. She knew them all. But then, in March last year, the school had a sponsored swim, and the kids were going to swim a length of the pool. And I promised I was going to watch her. But I got there, I was late out of work, and I was only going to be in time to meet her afterwards. But when I got there was an ambulance, and I thought, oh, like the pool is in the centre of a immediate clinic, so I thought like it was just somebody being dropped there. I didn't really pay any attention. But when I got in, I saw that there was no one in the pool, and one of the teachers was there with a group of kids, and she was crying, and some of the children were crying. And this woman, another one of the mums, came over and said there'd been an accident, and Neve had hit her head in the pool, and she'd been in the water, and they'd been trying to resuscitate her. But she said she was going to be all right, and I didn't believe it was happening. I thought it must have been someone else, and I was brought into a room, and Neve was on a table. There was a table for table tennis, and an ambulance man was giving her the kiss of life. She was in her bathing suit, and the ambulance man said he didn't think what he was doing was working, and he didn't know if she was alive. And he wrapped her in a towel and carried her out to the ambulance, and I got in the back with him, and they radioed on ahead. They were going to put her on a machine in Beaumont and try to revive her there. But the ambulance man knew, I think, she wasn't breathing, and he just knew. And he said if I wanted to say goodbye to her in the ambulance in case I didn't get a chance at the hospital. And I gave her a little hug. She was freezing cold, and I told her Mammy loved her very much. She just looked asleep, but her lips were gone blue and she was dead. And it had happened so fast, just a few minutes, and I don't think I have to tell you how hard it was, between me and Daniel as well. It didn't seem real. At the funeral I just thought I could go and lift her out of the coffin, and that would be the end of this. I think Daniel was, I don't know if he actually blamed me. There was nothing I could do, but he became very busy in his work, just keeping himself to himself. But I was more, I didn't really know what I was doing, just walking around, wanting to do nothing, sitting in the house with Daniel's mother, fussing around the place. Just months of this, not really talking about it, like. But then one morning, I was in bed. Daniel had gone to work, I usually lay there for a few hours trying to stay asleep, I suppose. And the phone rang. I just left it. I wasn't going to get it, and it rang for a long time. Eventually it stopped, and I was dropping off again. But then it started ringing again for a long time. So I thought it must have been Daniel trying to get me, someone who knew I was at home. So I went down and answered it, and the line was very faint. It was like a cross line. There were voices, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. And then I heard Neve. She said, "Mammy." And I just said, "Yes." And she said she wanted me to come and collect her. I wasn't sure whether this was a dream or her leaving us had been a dream. I just said, "Where are you?" And she said she thought she was at Nana's in the bedroom. But Nana wasn't there, and she was scared. There were children knocking in the walls, and the man was standing across the road, and he was looking up, and he was going to cross the road, and would I come and get her? And I said, I would, of course, I would. And I dropped the phone, and I ran out to the car in just a t-shirt I slept in. And I drove to Daniel's mother's house, and I could hardly see. I was crying so much. I knew she wasn't going to be there. I knew she was gone. But to think, wherever she was, that there was nothing I could do about it. Daniel's mother got a doctor, and I slept for a day or two. But Daniel felt that I needed to face up to me being gone. But I just thought that he should face up to what happened to me. He was insisting I get some treatment, and then everything would be okay. But you know what? What can help that if she's out there? She still needs me.